Welcome, lovers! I don't know what I'm doing, but you probably already knew that. And today I figured it'd be fun to tell you about some crazy dreams I've had, because I have all sorts of weird dreams all the fucking time, so that's what we're doing today. Also, yes, I'm aware of the fact that my hair looks all kinds of nasty. Our water's been off because we needed to fix a pipe. Shush. So the first dream I'm going to tell you about is one that I can just remember off the top of my head because it never went away from my memories. But when I was really little, I had this weird dream in a dream kind of situation. The first dream I only remember bits of. I remember that aliens from like the Alien movie, the original one with like Ripley, were like real and on Earth and terrorizing my family. And I don't remember much of it, but I remember crawling through a vent. I remember it was in my parents' old house, like the one I was only in for like the early years of my life. I remember my grandma was there, and I remember we trapped one of the aliens inside of my parents' bathroom in their bedroom. Except the layout of the house was like slightly different from the layout that the house actually was. It was weird. But I remember waking up from that and like being freaked out and going downstairs, and in order to test my theory that it was a dream, I went, "Mom, are aliens real?" And her response was, "Oh, don't you remember? We trapped one yesterday in our bathroom closet thing." So immediately I knew I was still dreaming, which was fine because there was nothing chasing us at the moment. So I go into the kitchen to get some breakfast. My grandma's there. My parents are there, my sister's there. I think another like 2 people are there that I can't remember who they were. And I can't find a bowl for my cereal. And my mom's like, "Oh, we have a bowl in our bathroom?" So for some reason she goes to unpile all the shit we piled against the door to trap the alien. And I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" But it was too late, and then the thing opened up and I was like, wait, if this is a dream, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Sit against something, make yourself look like the furniture, and we'll be safe. So my family did that, and I tried to blend in with the wall and it didn't work, with the counter it didn't work, so I just laid down on the fucking floor and became the floor, and then I got stepped on by a fucking alien. That's like the whole dream. I don't even know. The rest of these I've had in like different points of the recent years of my life, and I've had them written down, so there will be more detail than what I can actually currently remember. So if I'm like staring at my phone, that's why. So this one was actually like pretty fucking cool. I remember I was on this weird islandy thingy in the middle of either some sort of lake or like ocean type thing. I think it was like an ocean. It was just like near the shore. But there were these like weird tangled black viney island things scattered about, and me and this random dude that I don't know are on one of them. And we're just chilling, having fun, getting in and out of the water, messing around. But I get like this weird, very terrified feeling like out of nowhere. And I'm like, I jumped in the water when I got this feeling because I was already in the process of jumping. So I immediately like scrambled to get the fuck out of the water. And right as I get out, this giant black, inky sea monster thing comes up and tries to fucking eat me and then disappears into the depths. And I'm just like, what the actual fuck was that? So pretty immediately after getting out of the water, I noticed that there's this weird shadow like hanging over me. So I look, and there's just this big floating demon reaper thing just floating there staring at us, freaking cape and scythe and everything. And I just am like talking to this guy like, what the fuck is that? Do you see that? And he starts freaking the hell out about the fact that I can see it, which freaks me out even more. So that's great. So suddenly this reaper thing fucking lunges at us. And this dude just fucking grabs me and like half teleports forward. Like, it's kind of like when you're watching a horror movie and there's like that little sound wave where people go poof, like forward, but it's also teleporting, but it's only little bits at a time to get away from this thing. And then all of a sudden the ocean is full of those fucking demon fish thing coming after us. And we're just like zooming the fuck away trying to get to safety. And at some point I have to do it by myself because I think he let go or something. And I was like, I can do this shit? What the fuck? I don't remember how we got away, and what I wrote down does not remember either, apparently. But we kept like getting away, and then the Reaper thing would find us every time. Like we'd go to different towns and cities and like woods and forests and random ass places, and we just had to keep running. Eventually we ended up finding like a whole group of people that were just like us, who were just running from death. At some point we figured out though that whenever the thing was near us, then our ability to like do that flash forward thing was like greatly fucking reduced. And this thing was like based on how much energy and how much you believe you can do it kind of bullshit. So it was really hard to actually do in the first place. But like, if he wasn't around, you could go really fucking far. But if he was around, you could only do like tiny bursts, which helped us figure out when to run. And at some point we ended up at this weird ancient ruins type thing. There was like a well of water in the middle and pillars and shit like that. It was on a cliff too. There was like a cliff right at the edge of this place that we were at, and I realized the dude I'd been with this entire time was just fucking gone. So I was like, guys, where the hell did he go? And they're like, oh, he went to the only place death can't go, which is where life begins. And I was like, okay, where the hell is this place and why have we not heard of it before? So at this point I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fucking go there too, and so should the rest of us. So I go to do that jumpy thing and I realize I can't. Like I can, but I can't the way I should. So the fucking thing is nearby, so I turn around and try to warn everybody, but then like right when I do, we get fucking attacked. So the freaking group of people, we're all fighting this thing, and they're like, you go to the place where life begins and we'll hold this fucking thing off. And they didn't give me a fucking reason as far as I can remember, and there wasn't a reason written in the thing I wrote after the dream, so I'm assuming I wasn't given a reason. And I was just like, okay, fine. So I went and I ran and I jumped off the fucking cliff and started doing the teleporty thingy to get away while they held it off. And I think that's like the end of the dream. I don't think there was anything after it, because I don't have any memory of anything happening after that point. But like, the main parts of that story have stuck with me for years. Okay, this one's a bit shorter, and one that I think I remembered because of a picture or something that I came across. So I was somewhere late at night, like alone at a pool, like one of those places that has like nice, clean, cool water, but there weren't like cameras for some reason, even though it was like a business place. So I went there because I was in like a really bad emotional place and I needed a way to clear my head and calm down and get through all the bad thoughts so I could get to the good thoughts, you know? So I was in the pool and there was like this glass ceiling thing, and I just decided to float for like a really long time, just staring at like the stars, and for some reason I could also see the planets. And then all of a sudden I was laying on top of like a floaty thing, and then like the first of my bad thoughts, I guess, came through, and I like sank a little bit. Not like a lot, just like a centimeter, I guess. Because I didn't sink too much, I wasn't like worried about it. But then more and more thoughts started piling on, and I kept sinking a little bit more and a little bit more, and for some reason I couldn't move anymore. And I was just really, really sad and kind of angry, but mostly sad. And like it happened like over and over until it was like just my face above the surface. And I stayed like that for a while. And then when the last thought hit, I just kind of went under. And like all of a sudden I could see like all the people that I knew, like the people that I cared about. And they were like trying to get to me from the surface, but none of them could like reach me, and I just kept sinking and sinking and sinking. And then like out of fucking nowhere, somebody like reached their arms around like under my legs and behind my back and managed to pull me out. But I woke up before I saw who it was, and that still irritates me. So this dream is a lot more of like an adventure-y movie type dream, I guess. So I went off traveling to go on, I think, like a family trip or something. And then I went to travel up like a really big hill. I don't know why I couldn't follow the main road, which was like right next to it, but there was like some weird fabric thing that was separating the roads for some reason. And like I was on the wrong side of the road too. Like cars were coming at me and I had to like get around them up until I got like to the edge of the mountain. So I had to get out of my car to climb the rest of the way up this thing, and I tried so hard to get to the top. Like I spent so much time just trying to pull myself up further, and at some point there was another fabricy thing you had to like hold on to because this thing was like vertical at this point, and I was still trying to get up it. And I do remember I had like a passing thought of like what it would be like to get back down. So finally I made it, and then I went into this weird building thing that was like a tomb, I guess. And there was this guy that was in this place, and he was like trying to tempt me to do shit that I knew I wasn't supposed to do. Like I knew it was bad shit, and I think it was sexual to some degree. Like it was really weird and uncomfortable. I remember people disappearing. I remember having a conflict with him. I remember finding people and going down the hill with people who were like in a family car thing that I think might have been his family. And then at some point I found him in a completely different place that somehow looked exactly the same, and then saw my family. And then the rest is just like super blurry. Like that's just like a really random, I don't even know. So this one's actually like really interesting to me. I was at like scavenging for some sort of supplies with a bunch of people. Might have been my family, might not have been. Not sure. And we were in a town that was like overgrown with wildlife, but also not, because it was mostly dead and still not over everything, I guess. And I remember we were trying really hard to stay away from like monsters and like mutated things, and I was like back and forth between alone and with people, which I guess makes sense for a dream. So on our way back to this like bunker thing that we were living in, we passed by a big one that was like sleeping, but I recognized who it was and got super fucking sad. When we got to the door, there was like a really weird locking mechanism thing on the door. You had to like pull really hard to get it open, and then pull really hard to get it closed. Then you had to latch the handle closed while it was like fully pushed in. Then flip the lock closed, and then let like a seal thing go over it. So I was having trouble getting this thing closed and locked, but when I finally got it, I accidentally hit like a number that was next to it, a number 2. Like there were different floor numbers, I guess. It was kind of weird, but I accidentally hit number 2. So the numbers flash, and the thing, like, I wasn't even moving. It was like the outside that was moving. It was weird. And I remember being afraid that I was going to be stuck in there forever, because I guess we had to go through the system one at a time, so it was just me in there. And then when the door opened, it was a completely new, like, world. And the funny thing was, the room itself was like an abandoned, messed up kitchen. So I started panicking because I heard something coming around the corner, and I was trying to get the door closed, and it wouldn't close. But then, like, a friendly old lady walked around the corner and smiled at me, and I was just like... So she said that she had plenty of food to go around, because food is a scarce thing, and if we needed more, we could get more. So I was like, oh, this is a place we need to have contact with, I guess. So she gave me, like, grapes and some sort of breaded meats, and I was very thankful for that. And then I decided to test out the other buttons, because I had never pressed any of them. As I pressed them, though, it was like I already knew where they went, even though I'd never been to any of them. I remember one of them was also like a kitchen-like area with a sliding glass door in front of where the travel-y thingy was. And there was an old thin lady there that I like did not fucking trust, because she seemed like the weird government type person you see in movies who has information she should have shared but just doesn't. Like, she seemed super schemy, like a really sly person. There was also one that was like a huge forest, and then one that was like a desert. And there was one more. I only went to it once, and I remember it being super fucking important. But for the life of me, I can't remember what it was or why it was important, and apparently past me doesn't remember either. So I went back to the desert one, and I remember seeing like an army convoy down the road, like they were waiting for something, for like a threat to come through. And I was super, super afraid, but I didn't want to leave for some reason. So a friend of mine came down the road that apparently I had contact with through our bunkers somehow, I guess, but she was someone I knew. Turned out she was like really sick, like really, really sick, and doctors were absolutely impossible to come by. And like, I remember being distinctly, completely worried when I saw how sick she was. I think her name was Gabby. Yeah, her name was Gabby. I don't remember how we got there, or how we even found this person, but we found like a really remote, hard to find doctor person in the forested area that we went to get her some help. He was doing blood tests and all sorts of other things and seemed like really, really nervous about the condition she was dealing with. So when he was done with that and we were about to head out, he was like, hey, I need to examine you also, which freaked me the hell out because he seemed super like worried about everything. I don't think getting tested happened in the dream. I think it just skipped because I remember being home after that. We were in front of my home and the military guys were asking me about the numbers, like where they go and stuff. And even in my dream, actually, I couldn't remember where the important one went. It's so weird. That's actually where the dream ended because I got woken up by somebody who had gotten home. But like, I would have loved to see where that dream went. By the way, the mutant thing that we saw at the beginning was a friend I knew from high school named James, and it was like super weird. He was mutated and his skeleton was like coming out of his body, like his whole spine was sticking out. It was super scary. All right, let's go to the next one. So the first thing, which is a really random thing, is I remember planting vegetables where like sidewalk grass grows, like in between the sidewalk, and there were carrots growing out of it. And then I got into a car with a stranger. Not like a stranger next to me, like a stranger driving. We were waiting for a boss person, like somebody who was like the boss of I don't even know what. They suddenly asked me if this person's scar was something they were born with or if they got attacked, and I was like, oh, they were probably born with it and then got attacked by like a dog or something. Don't know how I knew that. And then my dad came out, which is weird because he's not scarred or deformed on his face. So that confused me. So then the driver said, oh, I have a good idea, and just fucking swerved the fuck backwards and into our garage door and smashed it open, which was really fucking strange. So my dad was pissed off, reasonably, because it was his car that just got fucked up. And then we got out to talk to the dude, and I realized I heard a fucking mass of people screaming bloody murder. So I started yelling, we need to get in the house, and then there's like a mass of people panicking and running around suddenly and running away from behind us. So I was like, shit. And suddenly from those buildings behind us there was a massive explosion. Everyone got thrown. So I keep yelling, run inside, we need to get in the house, please go. And then this freaking energy wave just bursts through, like when you see a freaking simulation of a star exploding, like that heat wave thing. It was terrifying. And for like 3 seconds, my brain went, oh, I'm gonna die. So I just laid down and waited to die. Like we got knocked down and I just assumed we were going to die and accepted it and just didn't move for a few seconds, but we didn't die. So obviously the next big thing is, oh, we're not gonna immediately die, therefore try to survive. So we got up and ran in the house, finally. And there's like a time skip here that I think happened because I don't remember anything in between this part, but it was nighttime. My whole family was there and we were inside the house and all the lights were off. And I remember seeing a shadow thing in the backyard and being like, what the fuck is that? But thinking it might have been my imagination from the angle I was sitting at. But I moved, and then it moved. And I was like, oh shit. And it was a fucking gorilla, and it just like phased through the back door and like ran the fuck around and then went upstairs. Like I went to find it and then it was just staring at me and I was like facing it like, wah. And like I was scared for a bit, but then it wasn't doing anything, so I calmed down and just kind of went back downstairs. And like I remember when I got downstairs, I was afraid to turn around. And I couldn't figure out why, so I stood there for a few minutes and eventually got the nerve and turned around, and there was these shadowy, people-shaped things at every window. Like the whole back of the house has like a whole bunch of windows, and the door has a window in the middle of it. And they were just screaming and screeching and wailing and trying to get in the house. And it was mortifying. And like that's where the dream just ended. Okay, last one. So this one, I knew that I was dreaming, but I didn't. Like sometimes I could control aspects of it, but most of the time I couldn't. It was like a weird in-between consciousness of dreaming, I guess. So I'm on this ship, like a cruise ship type thing. My best friend is there, and we're just, well, my best friend at the time. And he and I are just there on some sort of vacation thing, chilling. It's nighttime, and me and Chris are just hanging out, and then all of a sudden the ship sinks. I don't remember if it was a weather thing or if it was an attack, because there was both a storm and a sea monster at different parts of the stream. Like, this happened so fast, but at the same time it was so agonizingly slow. Like, the ship broke down the middle, and a bunch of us got launched down into the water and just went by floor after floor after floor. And it felt so slow, but it went by super fast. I don't know a better way to explain that. It was just a weird time thing. Until eventually I like hit the bottom of the ocean. And like while I'm falling, I see my best friend, and like I try to grab him and not lose track of him, but he gets swept off in another direction. I only sort of see where he goes, and then I go like much deeper than he does because I hit the freaking bottom, and I'm trying to figure out a way to breathe, and it's crazy. Like, it was a you shouldn't be able to hold your breath that long kind of crazy. Before I really knew what was going on, I was at the bottom and like alone. And I was trying to find like air pockets or air bubbles to be able to like breathe from them, but I couldn't find any. Now, I don't remember what happened immediately after this, but I do remember there was suddenly a giant sea creature thing trying to kill me. So I kept trying to escape and swim away and hide, but she kept finding me. I remember at some point swimming through like an underwater seaweed forest. Of course it was underwater. The dream was underwater. There were times where it seemed like I was in the wrecked ship, but I was never completely sure. At one point I remember being caught and having to escape. I remember there was like a whole lot of pain. I don't remember what from, but there's just a lot of pain. So eventually I ended up in this room where there was air instead of water. And it was the only place I could find that she couldn't get to me, the big creature thing. But she could see me because it was a glass room. And I was super afraid that she was gonna break her way in. And like while I was in this room, I was trying to stand on the opposite end of wherever this thing was looking at me, but it was like the size of a small bathroom. So this is not much I could do. I also remember at some point either being led to or leading someone else to this room at some point, but I don't remember who she was. Literally this entire dream, I was just anxious and panicked and worried about where the fuck my best friend went, and it was absolutely stressful and insane. And like, I was so afraid that my best friend was like dead or like suffering, but I somehow knew that he was probably alive. The only times I ever really felt like I had any control was when I needed more time to do something, which is weird. I did eventually find him. I don't remember when or where or even really how, but I did. And I remember there was like so much relief in that moment. And then suddenly I was on a new ship. Like we were on a new ship floating around somewhere. It didn't feel sudden, but it was. It was daytime again, and we were fine, and we were happy and just relaxing again and talking and shit like that. But to get home, we had to go over a waterfall, which was super weird. So we started falling, and it was a long drop. Like, we were falling for like minutes, but we somehow landed super lightly, and I remember looking up at how far we fell and just like taking a picture because it was so fucking far and unbelievable. And when I was looking up to take the picture, I realized there were these buildings that were like miles apart from each other that like marked how far up we went, and there were 4 of them, like really far up from each other. And I had to wait until the boat rocked in a certain way so I could actually get a full picture of it because it was so tall. And then after I took the picture, me and my friend were just talking about how we'd tell all of our other friends about that epic fucking fall. And then some lady over the intercom was talking about how that was so fun, like in like a camp counselor kind of tone of voice of, oh, that was an adventure. And then I woke up. So those are some interesting dreams that I've had that I felt like sharing. So I hope you enjoyed this video, but if you didn't, perfectly okay, perfectly understandable, but I hope I see you in the next one anyway. So until then, I hope your day is just as lovely as you are. Bye-bye. What has 4 legs and doesn't have the most wonderful person on it? My bed. Would you like to fix that?